Welcome, everybody, back to another episode of Flavor in Your Ear podcast. It's your boy, Danny. Got my boy, Jay. Today, we have a special guest, Dr.Stefan Valdes by Movement Lab.
Correct.
Right? Today, our episode is brought to you by Havana Lager, a Miami original, specifically brewed here in Miami. Shout out to the sponsors coming through. Everybody take a sip.
Yeah, boy. Cheers.
Thanks for the
Waiting all day
sponsorship.
for this.
Nice. What do you think? This first time?
Pretty damn good.
Pretty damn good. Jay?
Not the first time, but always good.
Yeah, not the first time for me either, so this is definitely a treat. Well, you guys, you know how we usually do, man. We always start episodes with our guests, their backstories, and today's guest has very interesting backstory, very interesting career, very interesting path to get there, a lot of education, right? Works with some interesting people, a lot of Miami Heat players, a lot of NFL players. Very interesting path. Usually we've had guys in here that work as NBA skill trainers, work with coach NBA players, skill trainers. So there's a lot of different sets. This is the first time we have a guy that is in here that basically physically trains them, gets them ready, conditioning, rehab, stuff like that. So in the process of us learning, this is something that I don't know much about, and hopefully you're enlightening us and people out there that want to get into a profession like this and maybe motivate some people, right? So let's talk about your story, how it all began, your time at Florida, grad assistant with Billy Donovan. What was that like? Take us through that.
Well, first of all, thank you guys for having me.
Of course.
Definitely a pleasure being here with you guys.
Of course.
So I got started at University of Florida, where I did my undergrad, and I was trying to be a manager.
Okay.
However, there was no manager positions.
Okay.
So my goal initially was to get into the coaching side of things, and they told me, yeah, you're not, but we can't have you, basically.
Yeah.
So I just stood around, waited till something opened up. They said, yeah, you can come watch practice. You can help out wherever we see fit and at least just get my foot in the door.
Right.
So then that ended up going towards a video intern position, which was unpaid. I did that for about 2 years.
Got it.
And I was studying pre-med, doing that whole background, kinesiology, exercise science.
Right.
Always knew that was something that I always had interest in, just in case the basketball coaching career did not work out. And then I started working in the weight room with the Florida Gators, and then that led to a strength and conditioning internship, which led to assistant strength coach with the Gators, where I was doing basketball, golf, and tennis over there. And that was just a really unique, interesting experience because obviously Billy Donovan is one of the greatest coaches from a college standpoint.
One of my favorites.
Fucking legend, bro.
Yeah.
Great guy. Just so the way he runs his ship, the way he runs his team and everything is just really cool to be a part of. One of the coaches I really got close to was Mark Daignault. So he was an assistant coach at the time, and then I was a video intern. As a video intern, we are paired with one of the assistant coaches. So he was the one I was paired with, and I was doing scouting edits for him. Fast forward, this is the same guy who left to Oklahoma City to become the G League head coach.
Right.
And now he's currently the NBA head coach of the Thunder since Billy Donovan left. So he was basically Donovan's right-hand guy. And then he was actually used from Sam Presti brought him on to be able to recruit Donovan, which ended up working because that was one of his main guys that he was grooming because he was a young coach. So basically, that was just my way in as a performance side of things. And then that transitioned to me coming home from Gainesville to Miami after my role ended over there, where I went to physical therapy school at the University of Miami, got my doctorate degree over there while working as a strength coach in the private sector with a gym. And so basically that kind of led to one thing to another, where it was just practicing what I was learning from an education standpoint. I did 4 years of undergrad and then 3 years of physical therapy school where I got my doctorate. And then Billy Donovan was in Oklahoma City at the time.
Right.
So Mark and Billy as well kind of put me in touch with the medical staff for the Thunder. They offered to take me to a Heat game when they came down here while I was in PT school, just to kind of meet me. Fast forward, little did I know, that was actually an interview.
Wow.
So I was actually sitting next to one of my current clients, which is Victor Ladipo,
right?
Because he had a fractured wrist or elbow at the time. I don't even remember. But he was on the bench. I was sitting right next to him. And then I was just kind of like a station for the medical and performance staff to just kind of interview me when I'm just like, oh, this is really cool. I'm just sitting on the bench next to a player and while they're all working, basically.
That's the coolest scenario for an interview I think I've heard.
Yeah.
in a while.
Yeah.
So
pretty legit.
At the end of the day, I guess I did a good job. I didn't even know it was an interview till it's like, yeah, like we want you to be part of our staff the following year as an intern.
Was Victor already at OKC?
He was in OKC at the time that I interviewed, but he got shipped off to Indiana.
Got it.
Before I even got there.
Okay.
So I ended up interviewing, got the role, did my last 2 rotations of physical therapy school with the Thunder. And then as I was leaving as the process, I was in the gym setting. Like this is back home in Miami.
Right.
So I was in the gym setting, and then I left my clients to my 2 partners because we ended up separating from the gym side. So we ended up opening Movement Lab.
Right.
And during that process, they took all my clients, which it was a mutual thing where it's like they are able to help me and kind of grow a brand together.
Right.
And then I ended up going to OKC for about 9-10 months.
Right.
Them 2 kind of took care of the whole business side at the time. It was a startup. It was just
Yeah,
growing, getting started.
Oh, we all gonna start somewhere.
Yeah, exactly. So we started honestly in a pelvic care physical therapy clinic.
Okay.
So we were setting mats down on the floor and just training guys, doing whatever we could.
Right.
And it was all general population. This is not like the cool athletes or any of that stuff.
Yeah,
yet.
yeah.
Not saying general population is not
Yeah,
cool.
yeah.
Well, trust me, they're the most fun people to work with. But then, so I'm in OKC. They're taking care of the business back home. And basically just that connection from Florida allowed me to make that connection with the Thunder. And then I ended up doing a good job that they liked me. They wanted me to stay on another year as an intern.
Right.
I've been a freaking full-time intern for the past 4 years already.
Right.
I needed something different, obviously something that's going to pay the bills from a financial standpoint. So I ended up coming back to Miami. I took a job as a physical therapist once I graduated. Did that for about 3 months at Fox Physical Therapy, very good clinic. And then also helping my own training studio grow as well. Detroit Pistons called, and they asked me would I be interested in a position with them.
Right.
The pay wasn't that great. The position wasn't that great. It was only G League at the time.
Right.
And I would be the head strength coach of the G League team. Turned them down. They came back, made their offer better, said at least just go fly out there and meet with us.
Mm-hmm.
So
Like
I'm like, you know what?
interview.
Yeah.
Like this time you're interviewing them, basically.
Yeah.
How the tables have turned.
Negotiations
Yeah.
is what they call it.
No, it was really cool. Just like they gave me the full service, the limo picking me up from the airport, the person with the sign. Like I never had that. Like you're just standing there with the name with the sign. You go in there like, oh wow, like
The 5-star.
this is cool.
Yeah, yeah.
There's champagne in the back seat.
Yeah. And this is for like a small little position at the time with them.
Yeah.
So initially it was only a temporary position, like a few months. They ended up increasing that towards a full-time position. Half with the Pistons, half with their G League team, especially when they're away. And then I just kind of go back and forth between Detroit and Grand Rapids. And at the point I was like, you know what? It can't hurt. Like, let me just check it out. Let's give it a try.
Yeah.
I did all this beforehand, all these internships, all these unpaid positions to be able to get there.
Right.
And I turned it down the first time just because I had my business as well, and that was my priority at the time.
Right.
Spoke to my partners. They're like, you know what, you're probably gonna take this. Like, this could elevate us to another level. So I ended up taking a position. Was in Grand Rapids and Detroit for till basically COVID.
Right.
And that shit sucked.
Yeah. It sucks for
Honestly.
everybody. It was tough.
People think like, yeah, like obviously working in NBA is really cool, but there's a grind component to it. And a lot of the times it has to go through the G League because that's how you learn to be able to do those things at the highest level, which is the NBA level.
Right.
So me at the G League, I had no resources. It was cold as shit, basically.
Yeah.
It was freezing the entire time. We were training in a hallway where it was like 40 degrees in the arena.
No insulation.
And I'm using like the ladders to be able to put up a TRX, like one of those things like the suspension trainers. So I'm using a ladder to be able to do that, using carpet as like turf, basically just trying to do what I can from like a job standpoint. I had NBA players come down from the Pistons to be able to train there as well. And I have to take care of those guys because those are the priority for me. And then I'll go back and forth with them, like the two-way players and the assignment players. I'll go back and forth with them to Detroit and just take care of them there as well.
Yeah.
And then COVID hit.
So real quick, as the athletes that you're dealing with that are more like the two-way or things like that, as they come and go, you are the one that's assigned to that. So it's not necessarily, it's like a team of physical therapists, and then there's like different types of groups, cells, things like that.
So usually the way it works in an NBA standpoint, it's like you have your strength coaches, you have your medical staff, and the strength coaches do the weightlifting, and the medical staff do the table work, the treatment stuff. Me as a physical therapist, I do a little bit of both.
Okay.
So as that, I had more responsibilities for the players, and then the players are usually like divided up per staff member.
Right.
So each strength coach, each athletic trainer, physical therapist takes 3 or 4 guys. So it's the same thing where it's like my 3 or 4 guys were the 2-way players and the rookies.
Yeah.
So like one of the ones was Sekou Ndomboya. He was with me in Grand Rapids a lot, and then I was with him in Detroit whenever he'd go back and forth, like an assignment game. And then so, yeah, that's just how the NBA works. And then that way you have a consistent treatment and weightlifting program because that's the guy that you're working with.
Right.
Some teams do a little bit different, but realistically, that's the majority from the ones that I know.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then when COVID hit, it was just like, okay, what's the plan now? And then in Detroit, we were one of the teams where we had Christian Wood. Christian Wood was one of probably the second player that was diagnosed with COVID. So we were on lockdown for about 3 or 4 weeks, not knowing what to do.
Yeah.
Fucking A, bro.
So I had to go to like the grocery stores for these players, like just trying to like help out as much as I can because they were not really supposed to leave. And then it got to a point where Detroit was like, okay, because my contract was till July. They're like, do you want to work from home in Detroit or do you want to work from home in Miami? And I'm like, peace out, I'm out of here. This is an easy decision.
Yeah, that's
don't want to go
send the limo to Miami for me.
Yeah.